Today we're going to learn about parallel and perpendicular lines. Two lines may either intersect or be parallel, but not both. So in this first example, we have intersecting lines. So we know they're intersecting because they form four angles. And what you might notice is that, let's label these angles A, B, C, D. What you might notice is that the angle A and the angle C are the same amount of degrees. So we would call A and C are vertical angles. Meanwhile, angles that share a side like B and C, these of which are supplementary angles and add up to 180 degrees, B and C would be adjacent angles. Parallel lines are lines that no matter how long they extend, they won't intersect. So these two lines here are parallel because these lines will never intersect no matter how far they extend. This set of lines is not perpendicular. However, if they were to form a right angle, then they would be. So for example, if we rotated this line so that it made a 90-degree angle with the other line, only then would it be perpendicular, for each angle would be 90 degrees. Now there are some important properties about the way a line behaves when it intersects with two parallel lines. For example, in this smaller visual on the bottom left side, this line here, let's call it A, intersects with these two parallel lines, L1 and L2. If I were to label this angle B here, and B was a set amount of degrees, then this would also be B, and this would also be B, and this would also be B. So these four B's are actually the same degrees. All of these angles share the same amount of degrees. And the same goes for if I called the C here, this would be C, this would be C, and this would be C. So in reality, although we have 8 separate angles, 4 share the same amount of degrees labeled C, and 4 of them share the same amount of degrees labeled B. So let's apply everything we know about angles to solve for A, B, C, and D in this little problem down here. So we're given 55 degrees here, and let's see, we have D, which if we were to assign 55 to C here, that means that D would be the same amount of degrees. So we know D is 55 degrees. According to supplementary angles, we know C plus D is equal to 180 degrees. Yet we know what D is, so we have C plus 55 degrees is equal to 180 degrees. And so if we subtract 55 from both sides, we would get C is equal to 125 degrees. So we know C is 125 degrees. Finding A and B is really easy because, again, it is also labeled C on this graph here. So it would actually be the same amount of degrees as D. So they'd both be 55. And so that completes it. We solved for all the angles that were missing. If we were to try to the angles E, F, and G, these three angles would just be the same as C, because this visual proves that's the case.